Hey friends, it's Len here at 1A Auto. Today we're going to be working on our 1996 Dodge Ram 1500, and we're going to be doing something super simple, replacing the steering shaft. As always, if you need this or any other part, check us out at 1aauto.com. Thanks. All right friends, so we're inside the vehicle and I wanted to talk to you about something super important. Behind your steering wheel, right behind here, you have yourself a clock spring, and the clock spring just basically connects an electrical connector, but also makes it so you can still turn your wheel without putting your wires into a twist, okay? They're very delicate and they're pretty costly to replace, so I like to try to prevent damaging those. And the reason why I'm worried about that is just because if you took your steering shaft off of one side or the other down there, the steering wheel isn't gonna have anything holding it still. And so if you were to turn this and it just spun and spun and spun, you could break your clock spring behind there. So I just went with something like this. Nice little bungee cord. They sell a special tool that you can buy if you wanted to get that as well. You know, you do you, boo-boo. I'm gonna go with this because it's something that almost everybody has laying around, whether it's in your shed, in your truck, in your garage. Just put it around here, and then I'm gonna bring these hook ends down underneath the seat, and I'm just gonna find a bar that's under there. You could feel around, and I'm sure you can find something that you can connect those to. Put them on there real quick. Sort of quick. Cool. All right, so that just makes it so the steering wheel can still, technically it can still move around quite a bit, but it's not gonna be able to spin around. There's no way that this is gonna be able to go ahead and do a 360-degree turn and potentially damage the clock spring. Let's move along. You might notice that this arm is off of the steering box. That's not part of doing the steering shaft. It's just for another video we're doing. So don't worry about taking that off. Just worry about getting this off right here. Now we're gonna take out the pinch bolt that holds the steering shaft to the steering box. It's a 13mm pinch bolt. There it is. We'll set this aside so we don't lose it, and we can continue. So what I'm gonna do here is, you can see where there's this little split. That's where we're gonna create a gap, and it's gonna help the shaft come off. Awesome. Okay, that shaft's moving around quite a bit. You can see right along here, it's starting to want to separate and it's starting to come off. So when we're trying to remove the shaft, you know, we're giving it a couple bonks here and we're trying to get this to kind of go up. The reason why ours isn't going up is because the new shaft can do this, right? The old shaft, it's been in here since 1996. It's been around a while. We're in 2019 right now, so you know, it's not moving anymore. So as I bonk, this is not contracting like it's supposed to. The shaft itself is definitely moving around on the box. That's ready to come off. The problem is it's still not contracting like I was showing you before. So what you could do is you could cut the shaft if you have a cutoff tool or some torches and you weren't worried about burning anything. You could just cut the shaft, and then that way there you can get off the two separate pieces. You can continue trying to pry. You could unbolt the steering box from the frame itself and just try to move the steering box a little bit. And at that point, hopefully you would be able to get this loose and off of there. Something to consider though is if you're gonna keep bonking, you know, like we've already given this quite a few bonks at this point. Every time we bonk and that shaft isn't compressing, it's sending the vibrations up into the passenger compartment to where the steering wheel and the airbag and everything else is up there. So you could continue to cause damage further up the line by giving this those loving bonks like what we're doing here, okay? So that's something to think about. What we could do is we're just gonna try to take out these bolts for the steering box and just see if we can move it around enough. Of course, like I said, this right here may or may not be on there. If it's on, it might make it a little bit harder to try to lift it up and get it over there, but I'm sure you can finagle it around. So let's try taking out these bolts real quick and move along. And if you are gonna be taking down or moving the box around and you found that this arm was in your way, it would be much easier to just take off this cotter pin and this nut right here and break the tie rod free down here than it would be to try to take this off right here. Because once you get that nut off of there with your 34mm, You'll take off the lock washer, of course, that'll pretty much just fall off. But then you have to try to separate this arm from here, and that could be quite the task sometimes, unless you have a Pitman arm puller. Use our 21. I'm gonna use a swivel with my 1/2-inch air gun. Anytime you're using an air gun or a swivel, make sure you're wearing your safety glasses. Put this up on here. We've got a bolt here, a bolt there, and a bolt there. All 3 of those go straight through the frame and then into the steering box. So there's one of our bolts. That one I'm sure looks exactly the same. I'm just gonna leave these kind of started in here for now. That's just so when I take out this last one, I'll have plenty of control over that box and it can't fall out of the vehicle. Yep, it's about the same size as that one, if I can remember it. So I'll put this one aside. So I'm just gonna loosen these back up. I'm holding onto the box at this point. Okay, we just have that one last bolt holding it in. Aside from that, we're gonna have our power steering lines, right? The power steering lines connect into the top of the box. So you need to remember that. I know we're taking this out right now and we're trying to get the shaft off, but we can't let this box come dropping down because then we're gonna rip out our power steering lines. There it is. All right. So I'm just gonna try to get that shaft off of there. There we are, we got our shaft off of there. I'm just gonna take this, I'm gonna put this bottom bolt back in real quick. You can see it coming through the frame. I'm just gonna start it into the box. There we are. Awesome. All right, get this on here. We're using our 13mm with a swivel. Just gonna take out that jam bolt. Get that out of the way. There it is. Okay, now we just need to get our lower steering shaft down off of the upper steering shaft. I'm just gonna use a hammer. Let's see if I can help it along. Here it comes. Just bring it right up through here. And this is our problem child. Yeah. That is not doing what it's supposed to do. Time to go. So I don't know if you can see right in between these 2 joints right there. You have your little U-joint. If your joint can do this, it is no good. This one over here feels fairly tight. You replace this as a whole unit, of course. And lastly, this portion right here should want to go in and out. Now, either I didn't have my Wheaties today, or this thing is extremely rotted and just doesn't want to move. So here we are, friends, a quick product comparison for you. Right here, we have our steering shaft out of our 1996 Dodge Ram 1500. As you can tell, it's in very poor condition. Over here, we have our brand new quality 1A auto part. Both parts, when held up next to each other, as you can tell, they're about the same length. If they're not, well, that's not that big of a deal because the length changes, or at least on the new one. Not so much on the old one, as you saw. But anyway, to continue, you have the end that goes up to the upper steering shaft. You've got your little rubber damper here. That's great because it's going to keep the vibration down up at the steering wheel area. You've got this area right here, which just goes in and out of this area. They made this one opposite of the original. I assume because, well, the original didn't really work out very well in the long run. I don't know, it must have just held a lot of water in there and just turn the garbage quick, and 1A Auto wanted to go ahead and juice it up a little bit for us and make it a little better. We have our universal joint down on this end, it's brand new. And then of course the universal end up at this end, which is also brand new. This is a very nice part, looks to be a quality part. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't want to install it into the vehicle. So, well, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. As always, if you need this or any other part, you can check us out at 1aauto.com. Thanks. So you'll notice on your ends that you have kind of like a flattened area. You've got all the little knurled areas that go all the way around, right? Then you got the area where the bolt goes through, but then you also have a flattened out area that has no knurls. You want to pay special attention to that because that's going to line up with the shaft that's inside the vehicle. And you'll notice that it's the same way on the other side. Maybe it doesn't have as many knurls in there, it's kind of smooth, but there is a flat area. So you're just going to line up your flat area with the flat area in the vehicle, and you should be all set. So here we go. It's down in here. I'm just gonna go right down through that. Let it down. Pull this up here. There we go. Okay. I can feel on the truck itself the shaft that comes out from inside the cabin, right where the bolt's going to go through. There's kind of like a dimple. We're going to line that dimple up with the bolt holes in the new 1A Auto shaft, and then it slides right up on. Super easy. I'm going to grab my bolt. It's your prerogative if you want to use a little bit of thread locker. I would say that it's a good idea. Blue would be the color of choice. If you don't have access to blue, a tiny dab of red, but definitely not a lot of red. And I strongly recommend using a little bit of thread locker, but stuff like that is always just kind of dealer's choice. Like, you do you, boo-boo. I'm just gonna snug this up. Okay, torque it down. We're gonna torque this down to 36 foot-pounds. There we are. I'm just gonna hit one more time, just for good measure. That's great. And we'll do the same to the lower one. So I'm just gonna give this a little blast with my Never Seas. There we are. Maybe a little bit extra, but truck's not complaining. I don't hear anything. We're gonna grab our steering shaft. You'll notice that there's a flat spot on the box and there's a flat spot on the shaft. You can generally tell just by kind of wiggling the shaft around. You should be able to feel where it lines up. And then it's gonna slide right on. Might have to use a little bit of force. So I'm just using my little mini hammer here and giving this a couple loving bonks. That should be pretty great. We'll grab our jam bolt for down there and we'll torque it down. All right, so what we're gonna do here, we're just gonna get this off. There we are, now our steering wheel can move around. We're gonna raise up the vehicle or get underneath the vehicle and we'll get that last jam bolt in all the way. So we're just gonna snug this up until it bottoms out and then we'll torque it down. So we're just gonna torque this down to manufacturer's specification, 36 foot-pounds. Just check it one more time. That's tight. On to the next step. All right, so now it's time to bottom out these bolts and then we'll torque them down to manufacturer's specifications. Let's get our 21mm socket and our torque wrench and torque these to 140 foot-pounds. So here we go. Let's torque these down, 140 foot-pounds. All right, let's just double check them real quick, just for good measure.
Thanks for watching. Visit 1aauto.com for quality auto parts shipped to your door, the place for DIY auto repair. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button.